keep observing. You observe what's around you, and then when you see things, you wonder why it's like that, and then you become curious about everything. Marie-Luce Chevalier. I'm from Belgium and France. I'm a research professor at the Institute of Geology of the Chinese Academy of Geological Sciences. I work on earthquakes in China, and especially on Western China, the Tibetan Plateau, and how the plate tectonics move. I've come to China for more than 20 years now. My first time was 2002 when I was a PhD student, so we went to Tibet, so that's when I discovered China and everything. I love the way of life here and the friendliness of the people and the various landscape. This region is called the Pamir Mountain, and this is the northwestern part of the Tibetan Plateau. You have the glaciers in blue, you have the active faults here that are very, very linear and very visible on the satellite images. And then this is Kashgar in Xinjiang, and you can drive through the Pamir Mountain and you arrive on this plateau here, which is at 3,000 meters high. And at this location, there was one big earthquake in 1895. We collect some samples from the surface, and we try and understand how the landscape formed. And we map the faults and we measure some topography. And then we come back to the office and to the lab and do some chemistry experiments on these rocks to try to date them. Then we can estimate the slip rate of the fault, how active the fault is. Another project that I started is located here in southeastern Yunnan. You can see this very clear fault trace as well. There is this big active fault that is very, very clear on the satellite images called the Red River Fault, because it follows the Red River, which goes, all the way to Hanoi in Vietnam. And then this fault looks like a very active one, but no earthquakes have happened in the last at least 2,000 years. And many big cities there, like Kunming or Dali, if an earthquake would happen, it would be very, very devastating. We're trying to understand how the fault moves, how fast, how often, how big the earthquakes have been, so how big they will be and how often, when the next one could be. It's a bit challenging because a lot of man-made terraces to grow agriculture, so it's hiding the rocks as well. So a typical day would be spending a lot of time looking at satellite images, spending time in the field, and then, of course, advising students, doing some lab work, and attending meetings and presenting our results at conferences. Now we are going to the Institute of Geology and Geophysics of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. We are collaborating on a new project. We look at these tiny organisms called diatoms that live in the water or around the lakes, including in Tibet, and we're looking at their structure and their distribution to understand how the lake evolved. So when there's an earthquake, you have landslides coming down the lake and are killing these organisms, and then they start, proliferating again. So it's really like a sharing between not just the students, but the colleagues and other colleagues in other institutes as well. I think you have to be open-minded, have patience, and then just not be selfish, and to be curious as well.